Listen, I don't like to get involved in which series is better or who has more clout in this. And so when it comes to manga, and one of the things that always annoys me is when people have the insistent need to just rip on things that came before them in terms of works of fiction or movies. Yeah, I don't like this series or this series in general, but to say an entire genre is just trash just kind of annoys me. And so we got the response from Kazuhiko Torishima. I'm gonna say the name right. Kazuhiko Torishima. He was the editor for Akira Toriyama, the mangaka of Dragon Ball. Yes, that one. And he went online. He went on a bit of a con panel, and he essentially trashed all of modern shonen manga. And what do you mean by trashed? Okay, let's just look at words he said exactly. Okay, so I want to make sure we can narrate this. Torishima thinks old manga is much better. Okay, fine. To each his own. We all have our own flavors and tastes and what makes us kick. That's fine. He then responded saying today's manga suck because they rarely take actual print into account. They don't consider the 2 pages of spread, and he blames smartphones for this. Okay, so different tastes, new technology. Okay, that's fine. That happens across all fiction. Oh, it gets worse. This is just the tip of the iceberg. He's criticized manga heavily because he says the current series is overloaded with narrations and expositions. A proper manga pages should be readable in just 3 seconds, echoing the philosophy of the father of manga, Osamu Tuzaki. Okay? And then you see, and so like for example, in series like Jujutsu Kaisen, you'll have the narrator basically provide an info dump on someone's curse technique or a restrictions on a domain expansion. Or in Hunter x Hunter, you see a lot of expositions, okay? To say that, I could understand maybe see you don't like the exposition-heavy manga, but to say it's all trash simply for that reason just kind of makes me annoys the hell out of me. And then he says, according to Torishima, Shonen Jump and manga in general has become too wordy, and mangaka began writing their series for adults instead of kids, changing the whole style. And I would strongly disagree with that. To say that kids can't read manga, again, you still have One Piece, very popular and beloved series, and that's a lot of exposition info to the point where you have info recap dumps at the top of some chapters after a long flashback. He personally thinks One Piece sucks because it's no longer a manga for kids due to that. Okay, and there's a reason why One Piece is still going on so long. It's been going on for nearly 30 years at this point, and he's saying that because of that, the way there's so much exposition dump and info, that doesn't make it any too wordy for kids. My man, it's been going on for 30 years, okay? I'm sorry to tell you this, but people who started reading One Piece like me in, say, 2009 or 10-ish, and you basically been reading the last 15, 16 years on and off again, and in my case, I started reading it, then I put it down. Then around 2015, 2016, 10 years ago, I essentially started reading it again, and I got back into it, all right? You're telling me those people are essentially the reason why One Piece is too wordy now. Again, it's not unusual for an author and a series to grow with their audience. That happens throughout all of history, okay? Oh, no, but he gets worse, okay? He tries to give One Piece's credit. He thinks One Piece is famous because Luffy's an extremely relatable protagonist. Yeah, he is. Luffy's got a goal. He wants to live freely and do his own thing. Okay, that's good. He also praises Oda for introducing characters like Zoro, Sanji, Nami, and Usopp especially for being the most normal. Okay, they're pretty normal. Okay, you're right. Usopp is definitely the lowest bunch. But he also criticizes Oda. And he says Oda is a massive manga nerd, all right, with a genuine passion for manga in general. And I'm like, that should be a positive thing. You would want your author of your series to love the work that they do and the care they put into it. It shows that Oda genuinely loves manga, and he is so quick to praise newer mangaka like the author Horikoshi from My Hero Academia, or Tabata from Black Clover, or Gege Akutama from Jujutsu Kaisen. He praises them regularly because he's such a fan of the series and he loves its work. But then Torishima says this is a negative. I'm sorry. What? I'm sorry. You want your creators to hate their job? Listen, when I was in college 7-8 years ago, I was in college. It was actually 7 years ago, more like 3-4 years ago. I had a professor tell me that when it comes to writing your dissertation, okay, you need to make sure it's a topic you love, because by the end of it, you're going to be sick of writing it. All right. You're going to spend the entire semester writing it and you'll hate it. And that makes sense in a lot of ways to me, because I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, you want to work on it. But to say that Oda has essentially been writing the same series for 30 years and he hasn't gotten sick of it, he still loves coming in and doing One Piece, just boggles my mind why this is a thing. Oh, it gets worse. He says the big difference between Dragon Ball and One Piece is that that Toriyama hated drawing the manga. Now listen, Toriyama is the father of modern shonen battle manga. So many things about shonen battle manga can be traced back to him and his series. But to say that he hated his manga, no, he hated you, Torishima. He famously hated you, all right, to the point where he absolutely despised you, all right? You were his biggest op. So to say that he hated manga, no, Torishima. He hated you, okay? He didn't like you. You were trash, all right? And according to Toriyama hated manga so much that this led to him being pushed by Toriyama, the father of mangaka, hated drawing his own series so much when he's with Torishima, he made it as synthesized as possible. But that's exactly why Dragon Ball became such a masterpiece. Anyone can read it. One Piece, on the other hand, is too heavy and unapproachable to kids. I strongly disagree with that. One Piece is not too heavy and unapproachable for kids. You had a lot of info dumps and exposition pre-time skip. Obviously, you have more post-time skip, but to say that it's unapproachable kids, no, I would not. It's obviously over. The reason why it's so unapproachable is because it's over 1,000, almost 1,200 chapters long. That's why it's so unapproachable, okay? I personally think that that's okay. If you take it one step at a time, you should be fine. He also, and if you think he's done, no. He trashes other modern series like Chainsaw Man, Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen. He thinks they're all bad. Again, I'm going to say this again. Listen, there's plenty. You don't have to like those series. I've read all 3 of those. And to say they're just straight bad, crap, he uses the word crap, all right? He thinks they're shit. I'm sorry. I think he's too much drinking his own Kool-Aid, okay? I'm sorry for that. I've never read the series Blue Lock, but he hates that apparently. He thinks Hiroshima is the only modern mangaka worth reading, and considering Touch one of the best manga ever made. I haven't read Touch, so I can't judge it, but okay, I'm guessing that's less exposition and more action, okay? And he has some takes about Naruto, because Naruto fans love to insert their opinion in everything. He thinks Naruto was a great series when it started, but he wanted Kishimoto to kill off Sasuke and make Kakashi stay dead. And he thinks Pain arc was the last good arc in Naruto, which I'm going to be fair to him. I kind of agree. Pain was probably the last great arc in Naruto. From there, you only have great moments and not a whole lot. I do agree. Kakashi probably should have stayed dead. I'm not probably coming back, but killing off Sasuke, that would have been really intense. I wondered what would have happened then if he did kill off Sasuke in that whole scene. But again, he's just basically saying Naruto was bad or started off great. So this leads me to believe he's probably being a boomer. Essentially, he's liking his generation the best, and he's taking dumps at everybody else who didn't meet his standards. Again, listen, I don't like to shit on people's taste. You like what you like, do what you got to do. But he's basically just crapping on every modern shonen series that came out in the last decade, essentially, okay? And he's just like, they're all trash, too much exposition, and the authors love their work too much. They're too much geeks. I'm like, motherfucker, you want your authors to be geeks. You want them to be passionate about it, all right? All right? You want them to love the work that they do because it shows how much care and effort they go into it, all right? And then Torishima wraps up by saying, okay, manga has 2 problems, all right? It's written for adults and not for kids, and manga is becoming too expensive for kids, which, if you want to make things more affordable for everybody to have access to, I'm all for that. Okay? He sees this cycle. He wants to start the cycle of stop kids, because if they aren't reading today, they won't be mangaka tomorrow. And I can actually kind of see that, because for people like Oda and Kishimoto, their experiences of reading Dragon Ball as a kid in the 80s was something that was very transformative to them. Obviously, people like Horikoshi was reading One Piece when he was in high school back in the early 2000s. The mangaka for Jujutsu Kaisen, Gege Akutami, he was heavily inspired by Bleach and Yu Yu Hakusho, okay? So, yeah, I'm all for that, making it more affordable, okay? But just to completely just trash an entire genre and not see it be good, just I'm sorry. What are we doing? And he thinks only Japanese can make manga, okay? And he specifically finds that a worldwide manga contest. He specifically finds a worldwide manga contest at Kodahashi's manga contest ridiculous. And so then, yeah, again, that's just his opinion on that. When it comes to anyone can be a manga, I'm gonna guess it means you have to live in Japan. You have to write in a serialized magazine. That's what I'm guessing. Manga are essentially just comics, but in Japanese, and have a different style to it and text to it. But if you like making comics, you should be able to make comics. I don't know why we have to put a label on it, but we do. So yeah, again, he just basically doesn't like modern shonen. He thinks they're too narrative or exposition dumpy, and he thinks that they're only for adults. I'm sorry. What? I'm sorry. What? He's just, to me, he's just straight hating. Now, some of his points are valid. Making manga more accessible to kids, great, love it. Making sure that we having future mangakas in the world because of that, great. Naruto after Pain arc started to go downhill. Yeah, I agree with that. All right, but most of his tastes just come to hating. But again, whatever series you like, whatever genre you like, you don't have to start becoming a hater and start trashing on people. It's not cool, man. Okay, it's just, you just comes across as you're hating. Okay, you're just hating, and I hate to break it to you, no one likes hater. Anyway, I'm Malik. God bless you all.